Let's move across to Florence Villemino, who's going to take us through what's making headlines in the international press. Syria, of course, in the spotlight today in many papers, with the UN investigators accusing the Syrian government of crimes against humanity.
That's right. That's front page news in Lebanon. Let's take a look at the front page of L'Orient Le Jour. The UN accuses the Assad regime of exterminating civilians, particularly detainees. Now, these UN investigators say they've collected evidence of widespread murder, rape, torture, imprisonment, and forced disappearance, and other inhumane acts. So this is getting a lot of attention. But what's interesting is the UN's reaction to the situation in Syria in general is also getting a lot of attention in the Arab language press. Let's take a look at a cartoon in al-Assad, that's a Jordanian paper. You can see here the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon hiding behind this podium, giving a press conference about the situation in Syria, where he's taped on this phrase, "We are preoccupied by the situation." Seems to be a catch-all phrase that he uses a lot to describe the situation in Syria.
Meanwhile, we've still got those Russian airstrikes, which are helping the government forces in that major offensive to take back Aleppo.
That's right. It's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, which talks about how the Syrian forces are squeezing the rebels. These Russian airstrikes have really been instrumental in helping the regime turn the tide against the rebels. And the Wall Street Journal says that while Russian airstrikes are backing up the Bashar al-Assad regime, the U.S.-led coalition is really aiming for ISIS targets, essentially. And it seems like they're fighting two different wars. And that analysis is shared in Libération today, which focuses on the potential fall of Aleppo. This would be tragic for Syria, but it would also be tragic for the West. You can see they're talking about Aleppo is a major challenge for the credibility of the West and its tough talk against the Bashar al-Assad regime. And inside this article, it says, let's not forget the tens of thousands of Syrians that are fleeing fighting in Aleppo right now. They're not fleeing ISIS. They're fleeing the brutal violence of the Bashar al-Assad regime.
And those refugees are piling up on the Turkish border, aren't they?
That's right. That also is front page news in many parts of the world. Le Soir, the Belgian paper, is focusing on this new crisis at the doors of Europe. And yesterday, the Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu met with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. That's front page news here in Turkey. This is the front page of the Hurriyet Daily News. You can see they're talking about Turkey and Germany taking the migrant crisis to NATO. This aspect, of course, getting a lot of attention in the German press as well. Let's take a look at the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Talks about how Germany is looking for a credible partner in the region. And so after jointly condemning Russia's airstrikes, particularly against civilian targets, Turkey and Germany vowed to seek help from NATO allies in monitoring and curbing the influx of refugees.
Let's move on to a completely different story now. Also a headline this morning. This, of course, is the New Hampshire primary, and there's lots of focus on the Democratic candidate, Hillary Clinton.
That's right. Breakfast with Hillary. That's on the front page of The Independent today. You can see Hillary and Bill there having breakfast the day before the primary, which, of course, has already started. Voters already heading to the polls there. Now, lots of papers are focusing on the fact that Hillary Clinton is hoping to cash in on women voters like she did in the Iowa caucuses. But an interesting analysis piece actually in Le Monde, the French paper, says that it's not a done deal. And it's interesting because in recent days, feminist icons like Madeleine Albright and Gloria Steinem have come out swinging for Hillary Clinton. Saturday, for instance, Madeleine Albright, so she was the first female Secretary of State under Bill Clinton, and she came out to speak at a rally, and she used one of her favorite catchphrases, which has gotten a lot of attention. It was actually the quote of the day on the New York Times' Twitter feed. You can see the quote here. There's a special place in hell for women who don't help each other. So this is a sentence that she's used quite a lot, and she was using it here, I guess, to talk about people who aren't going to vote for Hillary Clinton. And what's interesting is the previous day, Gloria Steinem, so culture icon, feminist icon, she said that young women are supporting Bernie Sanders, so Clinton's rival, because young men are supporting Bernie Sanders.
And those comments can't have gone down too well, have they?
That's right. The Daily Beast says that Hillary is confused with feminism. This is a quote from Bernie supporters who say that just because you want to empower women and become the first female president doesn't make you a real feminist. You've got to support a whole progressive agenda as well.
Okay, let's finish up with a quick words on another strong woman across in the States, talking, of course, about Beyoncé.
That's right. Maybe she should run for president one day. Lots of attention on her Super Bowl performance, of course. Personally, I thought it was amazing, but not to everyone's liking. You can see, actually, this is a tweet of someone who was very upset by the song that she sang during her performance, Formation. The song actually came out on Saturday. It's seen as a rallying cry for the Black Lives Matter movement. And so this is actually one person who is saying, don't look at the Super Bowl halftime show because she's going to sing this song. And during that song, she was backed up by a bunch of dancers who were wearing costumes that looked a lot like the Black Panthers. They danced in an X formation. A lot of people say this was a tribute to Malcolm X. And it drove the conservative media crazy. You can read another article in the Daily Beast about this, saying they were just really upset about the whole thing, and they didn't even understand the lyrics of her song.
Not at all. Well, there was, of course, Rudy Giuliani, who was on Fox,
yes,
railing against it,
he was upset.
Which I find quite entertaining. No one talking about Chris Martin, though.
A lot of people said that he was one of her backup dancers.
He was upstaged. God bless. Oh, well, thanks very much for that. Florence Villeminot with the press review. Stephen Carroll, our business editor, bringing us up to date on what's happening with the numbers. And I'm Helen Mockey-Dean. You're watching Live from Paris. Do stay with us. Still to come, more on those New Hampshire primaries.